So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you're joining in from. Welcome to all of you. Please announce yourself, as I mentioned earlier, by entering your name and location in the chat box. This is for the purpose of introducing yourself to the group. As you all may know, we would be awarding CCEU units for this. It's one RD unit that will be awarded for this. So we would post the link that is required at the end of the session. And we welcome you to this learning session brought to you by the Coach Support Group community of practice of the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. And allow me to introduce to you the hosting members of this session today. I am Gayatri Anand. I am your host today. And I am a coach, and I also lead the Coach Support Group COP for Mumbai Charter Chapter. With me in the hosting team today is Nandini, who is the Executive Assistant to the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. That's Nandini. And we also have Preeti, who is a PCC coach and member of the Mumbai Charter Chapter and ambassador of the Coaching Support Group community of practice. Well, some hygiene pointers before I hand it over to Shahab, and of course, before I introduce my dear friend. So kindly keep yourselves off video right away. And mute your mics through the webinar until we open it up for open the house up for interactions. This is to avoid any inadvertent disruption to the session. During the session, if you have a burning question, please do put it up in the chat box and Preeti will curate them for the Q&A segment towards the end. For those who wish to claim the CCUs for the session, we'll post you a link to a Google form. You need to complete the Google form and you will be awarded the CCU certificate within 5 days. We also invite you to stay after the session for about 10-15 minutes. Shahab might want to leave at 8 dot. So we would still invite you to connect with the coaches who are in the session. And last but not the least, before the Q&A, we would like to do a quick photo shoot. So I would prompt you to turn on your camera at that moment. May I request you all to go on mute and off video, please, now. Thank you. I once again welcome you to this learning engagement brought to you by the COP Coach Support Group of the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. Today's topic, as you know, is extremely interesting topic and something which perhaps the coaches need badly, I would say, my personal experience, and perhaps coaches are a little shy of, which is personal branding. How to become the go-to expert in your field. Today, all of you will learn the 2 key actions that make the difference between a struggling business professional and a successful personal brand, and the 7 proven strategies to gain visibility and credibility in the market and how to acquire them efficiently. Well, we have Shahab Anari, who is a medical doctor and a distinguished leader in the professional coaching industry, renowned for his unwavering commitment to providing world-class coaching education to individuals and organizations alike. As the driving force between a range of services, including his ICF accredited coach training program, he has become a hub for excellence in the field. Over the course of the past 25 plus years, Shahab has left his mark on the lives of more than 3 million people in 21 countries. Wow, take a bow. He has garnered a reputation among his students and the clients for his evidence-based methodology, ethical conduct, and unparalleled service. Shahab's achievements are nothing short of exceptional, both nationally and internationally. He secured the first rank in Iran's nationwide university entrance exam in 1997, reflecting his dedication to academic excellence. He was also named a top 25 Canadian immigrant in 2020, a fitting tribute to his contributions to the Canadian society. In 2021, he achieved a Guinness World Record in the publishing industry, a testament to his visionary approach to business. With a stellar reputation in the industry, Shahab has shared the stage with some of the most legendary speakers of our time, including Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Robert Kiyosaki, Jack Canfield, and Brian Tracy. His captivating speaking style, which we'll all witness in a while, and unique insights have earned him a large social media following, making him a thought leader and influencer in this field. Despite his many accomplishments, Shahab remains deeply committed to giving back. He takes pride in volunteering for his favorite associations, having served on the board of ICF, International Coaching Federation Toronto, and the board of CAPS, which is Canadian Association for Professional Speakers Toronto. He is also a certified mentor coach and holds a certificate in applied positive psychology. Shahab resides in Toronto, Canada, with his beloved wife and 2 sons. And as you know, it's 6:30 a.m. there, and he's been kind enough to accept this and share his wisdom with all of us so early in the morning. Thank you, Shahab. A fun fact about him, he loves to sing and dance. And I wonder if you get to witness that in the session today.
I can't promise that, Gayatri.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shahab, for being here. We're really honored, and I hand it over to you. It's all your play now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. It's truly an honor, joy, and pleasure for me to ICF coach like you, and we are all peers. What I'm going to share with you today is only my perspective. It's not the whole truth. I'm not pretending that it's the only truth about personal branding. So it's a peer-to-peer conversation, and I'm going to share what I've seen over the past 20-something years across 3 continents. I'm originally from Iran. I've lived in the Netherlands and Canada over the past 20-something years. So it's my personal experience. It's a peer-to-peer share, and hopefully it will be of value. So today we're going to talk about how to become the go-to expert in your field. Now, before I begin, I'd love for you to share one thing that you're grateful for today in the chat. Just one thing. It could be small, it could be big, so that we can go into that grateful space, that positive space, so that we can open up our mind to new possibilities. So put in the chat just one thing that you're grateful for today. Let's see what we've got here. Thank you, Anuradha, Gayatri, Thomas, Lamont. Awesome. We have audience from all over the world, Arizona, India, and all in between. Awesome. Empowering, good health, freedom to follow my calling. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for playing with me and sharing your gratefulness in the chat. Fantastic. Okay. Now I'm going to share my screen. If the host allows me to share my screen, I'm going to share the slides that I've prepared for you today. And it's all about how to become the go-to expert in your field. And I'm going to share with you 2 key ideas that I've learned over the past 25 years that are crucial to building one's personal brand, and 7 other ideas that all of us can use. And maybe you're already using a lot of them in order to become the go-to expert in your field. My intention, honestly, is to provide value for you folks, fellow ICF coaches and coaching peers. And some of the ideas that I'm going to share, you already know. Some might be new to you. So hopefully you will receive all the ideas with an open mind and implement them in your practice.
Shahab, you should be able to share your screen. Are you able to?
Fantastic. Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, lovely.
Question for you folks. Put it in the chat. What animal do you see on the screen? What do you see on the screen? What is this animal? Put it in the chat. So our interaction today will be in the chat. And hopefully, if we have time at the end of my presentation, we will do Q&A as well. So please feel free to put in your comments, your questions, answers to my questions in the chat, and let's keep it a 2-way street. Rabbit and duck, bird and rabbit, rabbit and bird. A lot of you might be familiar with this picture. You might have seen it before. As you can see from the answers in the chat, some people see the duck, some people see the rabbit based on whether you're looking at it from the right direction or from the left direction. Some see both the animals on the screen. And the point is this: perception molds, shapes, and influences our experience of reality. Just think about it for a moment. Perception molds, shapes, and influences our experience of reality. So what people think of us professionally really influences how we fare in the market. Just think about it for a second. People's perception of us professionally influences how successful we will become in our practice. Let me clarify one point here, which is very important. I'm not saying that our self-worth is dependent on, excuse me, other people's opinion. Of course not. Our value, our self-worth does not depend on what people think of us. But professionally, in the business world, it truly matters what people think of us. Their perception of us influences their trust, influences our opportunities, and influences how successful we will become financially in terms of the impact we're going to make, and so on and so forth. And based on this, we can see that a lot of the business leaders in the world emphasize the importance of branding. Jeff Bezos, whom you all know probably, the founder of Amazon, says your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I love this definition. Your brand is not what you say about yourself. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And this is in the professional space, in the business space. Again, we're not talking about people say that I'm kind, I'm loving. That could be a professional aspect, of course, but I'm talking about the business world. How we as coaches can be more successful, help more people, have more impact, become more financially free. So people's perception really matters. And the beautiful thing is we are in control of it. In the long term, if we play the long term, we can influence people's perception of us professionally. And today I'm going to talk about that and share what I've learned over the past 2 decades with you. And hopefully it will be of value to you as well. Now, my question to you again, please put it in the chat box, is what is your brand? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? What words do they use to describe your brand? Put it in the chat. You may be completely sure about your answer because you're familiar with branding and you've done a lot of exercises in this space. Maybe you're a teacher of branding, I don't know. Or you might be facing this definition for the first time. You might be thinking about it for the first time. It doesn't matter. What is your brand? What are the key attributes that people use to describe you and your brand when you're not in the room? Put it in the chat. Positive, Manish, helping hand, that's wonderful. Motivational and inspirational, Veena. Thanks for chiming in, folks. Keep it going. Kenneth says trustworthy. Lamont says enthusiastic. That's fantastic. Thank you guys for playing with me here. Okay, let's keep moving. Let me tell you a short story of myself. I'm originally from Iran, but I've been living in Canada for quite a few years. I live in Toronto right now. Here's a picture of me, as you can see on the screen, when I just landed in Canada. If you look at my face, there's this distant look in my eyes, which has a combination of hope and fear at the same time. Can you see that combination in my eyes when you look at this picture. So hope for the future, of course. My wife and I immigrated to Canada in hope of a better future for ourselves and for our kids. This could be a great move. We're going to build a better life here, and so on and so forth. And fear at the same time. Any big change comes with fear. Is this a good move? Is this the right decision? Am I being stupid by leaving everything behind and moving to a new country? And we've all been there, right? We've all made those changes, big and small, and we have this dichotomy of feelings, being hopeful and fearful at the same time. Prior to immigrating to Canada, I was an established trainer and seminar leader in Iran. And at some point, because of the financial / political / environmental situation in Iran, my wife and I decided, okay, this is not the place we're going to spend the rest of our lives in. And let's move to another country, a first world country where we will have more opportunity for ourselves and for our children. That was why we landed in Canada eventually, an English-speaking country, which is one of the best countries in the world. And we immigrated to Canada. And before I immigrated to Canada, I knew that this is a great opportunity for a rebirth. I wanted to start afresh. I wanted to start anew. I didn't want to continue what I was doing back in Iran. So I thought, okay, let's do some self-reflection. Let's think about what I would like to do with the rest of my life. And like many of you, I landed on coaching. I wanted to help people. I thought I had this life experience. I had this success and this wisdom. I wanted to help other people. And I stumbled upon coaching. And I fell in love, just a lot of you guys. I fell in love with coaching. And even before I immigrated to Canada, I knew that I want to do the coach training program. I want to get certified as a coach, especially an ICF coach. So when I landed in Canada, within 2 months, I started my coach training program, my first one. I've done quite a few since then. I started the coach training program. I started creating content for my social media, and people started to notice me just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. One of my friends who lives in Montreal, Montreal is a city in Canada in the province of Quebec, saw one of my posts and called me up. Shahab, you came to Canada. Congratulations. You're a first-generation immigrant. That's wonderful. You know what? I see your posts. They're wonderful. I know that you're into coaching. You're being trained as a coach. You know what? I just started this academy in Montreal, and it's a place where we teach soft skills and leadership skills to business owners. Let's collaborate. And of course, I said, of course, let's do it. What else was I doing? I was not busy. I didn't have any clients. I had just landed in Canada. I had no proper business going on. So I said, wonderful, let's do it. But the main question is, how are we going to get students for the course that we're creating for this collaboration? And he said, I have an idea for that too. There is this networking meeting. You can see a picture of that networking meeting in Montreal on Wednesday mornings. And there are a bunch of business owners who attend this networking meeting every Wednesday morning. I attend, and you can come down to Montreal and we can go to this event together. You can be one of the speakers at one of these events. You can stand up, talk about your stuff for 10, 15 minutes. And at the end of your talk, we can make an offer to the group. We can talk about a weekend course that we're putting on about business development for small business owners. And we make an offer. We will present them with a wonderful offer, and hopefully some of them will sign up and we will do the course together. That will be a fantastic start. And I said, hell yes, let's do it. So one Tuesday evening, I drove down to Montreal. I stayed the night at my friend's place, and Wednesday morning together, we went to this networking meeting that you can see on the screen. When the time came, I stood up, I talked about business development and all of the stuff that small business owners need to consider when they want to improve their marketing and branding and sales. and I drew upon stories and experience of my past 10, 15 years, everybody seemed to be engaged in my presentation. As you can see on the screen, most people were paying attention. They were taking notes. A lot of them asked questions. And at the end of my talk, they clapped for me. So apparently it went really well. When I finished, my friend stood up and said, Shahab is going to stay for a few more days. We're going to do this weekend course on business development for small business owners. And we have this wonderful offer, 50% discount. And if you sign up today, we'll give you this bonus and that bonus. And it's a wonderful offer. What happened next was mind-blowing. When the networking meeting ended, nobody, not even one person, came to me or my friend to ask about the details of the course. Not even one person. And we were dumbfounded. We were baffled. On our way back from the networking meeting, there was this silence in the car. My friend kept looking at me. I kept looking at him. We couldn't even start a conversation. We were just shocked. Why didn't anybody, not even one person, show interest in our proposal? And we thought, okay, let's call up one of the folks in this group, especially one who is a leader. And in this photo, you can see this guy in yellow. He used to be the leader of this group. So my friend called him up and said, dude, what happened? Why didn't anybody show any interest in Shahab's presentation, in Shahab's work, in our proposal, in our offer? What happened? Was Shahab bad? Didn't you guys like the presentation? What went wrong? And the answer this guy gave me opened my eyes to a lot of things. He said Shahab was really good, but we don't know him well enough yet. How can we trust that the weekend course is going to be worth it? And when I thought about that, I said, this makes sense. Of course they would think this way. They don't know me. I may be an expert in what I do. I may be knowledgeable in what I do. I may be certain that I can help them, but they're not. They don't have the trust. They can't see my lived experience. They can't be certain of the value that they will receive by working with me. And that is why I always say it's one thing to be an expert in something, but it's totally another thing to be trusted as the expert in something. Don't you agree? Put a yes in the chat box if you agree. These are two totally different things. It's one thing to be an expert in something. It's one thing to be a certified coach. It's one thing to be knowledgeable in the coaching process. It's one thing to be really good at coaching competencies, but it's totally another thing to be trusted by people, by our audience as the expert. And that is the difference. When you look at the statistics, that is the difference between an average dentist and a really well-known dentist. According to Globe and the Mail, an average dentist here in North America makes around $140,000 a year. It might be different in your area of the world, but I'm giving you an example. This is just an example. But if you look at Dr. Kevin Sands, who is a very well-known dentist in Beverly Hills, California, he charges $1 million for one sitting. $1 million for one sitting, for straightening the teeth of his famous clients. Just look at the difference, the gap, the big gap. Here in North America, the average real estate agent earns around $60,000 a year. But if you're a well-known real estate agent like Josh Altman, you can make millions of dollars every month by doing big deals, helping really important people and making big impacts. In our world, in the world of empowerment, the average coach in North America, and I'm giving you North American statistics, it might be a little bit different in your area of the world, but you get the point. The average coach earns around $50,000 a year from coaching. Of course, a lot of coaches offer different services like training and consulting and so on. But from coaching alone, the average is $50,000 a year. But people like Tony Robbins, they're not ICF coaches, but they are in the empowerment space. He said that his companies earned $5 billion with a B, $5 billion last year before tax. So, and it's not just about money. I'm not talking about just money. Financial aspect is, of course, important, but it's not just about money. It's about freedom. It's also about freedom of time. When you have a more established personal brand, you have freedom of time. You can work whenever you want, wherever you want, freedom of place and location, freedom of choice. You can work with whoever you want. You can work with people who know your worth. You can charge whatever you want. And you have this freedom. So you can make more impact. You can work with people you love. You can work whenever you want, wherever you want, and you will earn more money. So whether your value is money, impact, helping people, or whatever else, or freedom, personal branding can help you. And personal branding, as I will explain in the rest of my talk, is not projecting a fake image. We're not telling the world that we're something else that we're not. It's completely authentic. It's expressing our unique promise of value. And I'm going to talk about that today. So the two key points that I'm going to talk about in my presentation today is the importance of clarity and credibility when you want to build your personal brand. If you want to become the go-to person in your field, this is my perspective. Again, I'm a peer. I'm just another ICF coach like you. I'm not saying I'm the guru. I know everything about everything in the world. This is my perspective and my lived experience. Just so you know, I have a team of 30 people. I have a 7-figure business. So what I'm telling you is not just something I read on Google. I live this. And it has worked for me. And I'm not sharing this to pat myself on the back or brag about myself. This is a peer-to-peer conversation. This is my experience that I'm sharing. It is not the whole truth. It is not the only way of looking at things. This is my perspective. And hopefully, from the depth of my heart, it will be of value to you as well. So clarity. What does clarity mean? It means we need to define exactly what value we provide. It's not enough to say that I'm a coach. What does coach even mean? Even us coaches can't define coach in a comprehensible manner, don't you think? Coach is a very elusive term, and it's very difficult to describe. So we need to be very clear what transformation we create, what problem we solve. And I'm going to talk about it and give you examples during my talk. So defining exactly what value we provide is key. And moving away from generic terms like coach or executive coach or business coach, which really is not clear and doesn't mean anything specific in the minds of the general public, veering away from that definition, from those terms, and really getting clear on the transformation we provide. That is one key point. And the second one, credibility. And I'll share 7 ways that I've personally used, and I see a lot of successful people in the business world use, that you can use as well to build credibility. And thank you, Sunandra and Ruma and all the other wonderful guests today that are contributing to our conversation in the chat. Now, let's get into the details of clarity. In the business world, they talk about value proposition. Some people talk about personal brand statements. There are different terms, different words that business people use to talk about what they do. It's one thing to use a title. I'm a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm an executive coach. It's another thing to talk about your value proposition. And I'm going to offer you this question by one of my mentors, William Arruda. It's a statement, but it can be posed as a question as well. Your brand is your unique promise of value. Think about it for a second. If you want to take a picture of this slide, this is really important. Your brand is your unique promise of value. There are three components to this definition. First of all, if you're a brand, it needs to be unique. You can't say, I'm just like every other coach. I have no differentiation. I want to stay humble. I don't want to exaggerate myself. I don't want to say that I'm special. It is not culturally appropriate to stand out. These types of thinking gets in the way of you being unique and people perceiving you as unique. Because at the end of the day, branding is all about people's perceptions. So one component of your brand is that it should be unique. It should be different from the crowd. If you want to set yourself apart from the crowd, you need to differentiate yourself. So what is unique about you? What is unique about your personality? What is unique about your methodology? What is unique about your lived experience? What is unique about your years of experience? What is unique about your background? What is unique about you? The second component is promise, which is self-explanatory. If you promise something, you need to deliver on it. So this is the place where authenticity comes in. It's not just about faking it. It's not just about making false promises or making false claims. Shahab is the best in the world. Shahab has done this and that. Shahab has this credential or that background. It's not about making false claims. We all need to be authentic if we want to be successful in the long term. And going back to William Arruda's definition of your brand, it's a promise that we need to deliver on. If we say that we can create this transformation, we can deliver this value to our audience, whoever they might be, we need to be able to deliver on it. So it needs to be unique, it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be of value, meaning it needs to solve a relevant problem of our audience. Again, going back to what I said earlier, it's not enough to say, I'm a coach, I help you become more successful or more happy. That doesn't mean anything. You need to talk about the value. What problem do you solve? What transformation do you create? And this is not a new concept that I, Shahab Anari, I'm sharing with you right now. You have heard it multiple times, but for some reason, in my experience of working with business owners over the past 20-something years, a lot of people forget that. Again, when they're talking about themselves, when they're introducing themselves, when they're announcing themselves in the chat box, they again say, I'm a life coach, I'm a business coach. What does that even mean? What problem do you solve? That's the value. How is it relevant to your audience? So unique, meaning differentiated, promise, it has to be authentic, and value, talking about transformation. This is, if you just take one thing away from my presentation today, this is it. Unique, promise of value. Of course, I'm going to try to provide a lot more value today in my presentation. So let's keep moving. Anybody can say we sell pizza. This is generic. This is a wandering generality. But if you're Domino's Pizza, you say we get fresh, hot pizza delivered to your door in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. Now that's a bold promise. That's a brand. Anybody can say we sell pizzas. But if you can get fresh, hot pizza delivered to your door in 30 minutes or less, or it's free, that's a unique promise of value. Don't you think? If you agree, put yes in the chat box. If you think this makes sense, show me some reaction in the chat box. Let me give you another example. Thank you, Sagorika, Gayatri, and all the wonderful guests who are playing along. It's easy to say for a shipping company, we deliver your packages. Anybody can do that. But FedEx says when it absolutely, positively has to get there overnight. Yes, it's a shipping company, for God's sake, but it's a unique promise of value. It's easy to say I'm a realtor. That's generic. But if you want to become more specific, if you want to build your brand, you need to be clear. Clarity. I'm a realtor who specializes in finding properties for land development in the GTA, in Mumbai, in whatever area you're in. It's easy to say, I'm a coach, but a personal brand would say, I help businesses build their brand, get more clients, and make more impact. This is just an example. This is for me. I do this. If you're another type of coach, you talk about yourself. But what is your unique promise of value? I love this quote by Seth Godin. A lot of you might know him. He's a marketing guru. He's one of the highest regarded business leaders in the world in the field of marketing, and best-selling author of multiple books. He has a very important question for all of us. Are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? Take a photo of this quote if you'd like. Are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? So clarity is one of the components. So here's the question that William Arruda poses to us. And I think it's the cornerstone of any personal brand. Like us, most of us coaches, we came into this profession to help people, to empower people, to make people, to support people lead a successful, happy life. Isn't that so? We love supporting people. We love being useful to people. We love empowering them to solve their problems. But it's not enough to say that I'm a coach. It doesn't mean anything. Please take away this point from today's session. Coach doesn't mean anything. With all due respect, what's your unique promise of value? Think about that. Now, the second pillar is credibility. Thank you, Meenakshi, Gayatri, and all the wonderful guests who are putting in their comments, questions, observations in the chat box. And I'm going to instill in you some curiosity, hopefully, and provide some value for you so that when you walk away from this session, at least you start to think about some questions, some comments. Even if what I'm sharing with you is different from what you believe in, is different from what you value. Again, if we come to this session with an open mind and an empty cup, then we can explore other possibilities and other vantage points. And again, this is my experience. I've lived this for the past 2.5 decades. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I'm still learning. And this is just a peer-to-peer conversation, and hopefully it will be of value to you as well. So credibility, number 2. Here are 7 ways that I've learned and I've used personally, all of them, and I recommend to my students and clients to do if they want to build credibility. So the 2 pillars were clarity and credibility if we want to build a personal brand. So first of all, we need to be very clear about our unique promise of value. And second, we need to implement different ways to build that trust with the audience. Remember the Shahab who went to Montreal and nobody really paid attention to his offer? Remember that Shahab? Because he had no credibility. People didn't know, like, or trust him. There was no trust. He was an expert, but he was not trusted as the expert. How can we build trust? There are multiple ways to build trust. We have a core competency around building trust and safety. All of us coaches know that. It's core competency number 4. But I'm talking about trust in the business world. And how can we build trust with complete strangers so that they will become interested in what we offer? And please hold on to your questions hopefully at the end we'll have time for Q&A. If not, you can find me on LinkedIn and we can continue this conversation. I'll be totally honored and happy to do that. Okay, these are 7 different ways. Because we have only 15 minutes, I'm gonna dash through these, but I'm gonna give you some ideas and jot down the ideas. I invite you to jot down the ideas and maybe take a picture of these 7 different ideas so that you can ponder on them later on. So 7 different ways to build credibility. Number 1, let me ask you a question. Imagine you're driving in a completely strange area of your city, a place you've never been, and it's lunchtime. You're craving to have some chicken for lunch. And you go on Google Maps or some similar app on your phone, and you type in chicken restaurant. And you see these 2 different options on the screen. This is a true story. I actually did that. I was in a strange area of Toronto. I was craving for chicken. I went on Google Maps. I typed in chicken restaurant, and these 2 places popped up. Chicken place, 4.9 rating out of 5, 796 reviews, and Wicked Chicken, 1 review, 1 star. Which one would you choose? The top one or the bottom one? Put it in the chat, please. It's obvious, but please do. Which one would you choose? You don't know either of them. You've never been to either of them. You have no idea what they look like. You're just seeing numbers on the screen of your cell phone. One says 4.9 out of 5 from 700 something reviews, and one says 1 out of 5 from 1 review. Of course, the top one. So the first way is to show proof. And some ideas could be using testimonials, reviews, recommendations. And I'd like to plant that seed in your mind and pose you this friendly question. Are you actively seeking testimonials, reviews, and recommendations? Because not all people know you. Not all people know me. Most of you have never heard of me before this presentation. You didn't even know that I existed. So if you go on LinkedIn and you see that I have, I don't know the number, 50 recommendations on LinkedIn, that builds credibility for me compared to some other person who might have 0 recommendations on their LinkedIn. You get the point, right? So Google Maps, LinkedIn recommendations, testimonials on your website, these all matter because they show proof and you can build credibility. This is an example of a testimonial on my website. And I'm just sharing this so that you know I walk the talk. I do what I preach. I practice what I preach. If I'm inviting you to seek testimonials, reviews, etc., I'm doing it for myself all the time. And it works. So an action idea, jot it down. A lot of you need to get more testimonials, recommendations, and reviews. Start today. Put it in your calendar. Put it in your calendar. Reach out to current clients, past clients, happy clients, even business partners, people who have worked with you in the past. Get their testimonials. Show proof. Remember the chicken places story. Wonderful, Meenakshi. And you can see from the comments in the chat that other folks have used this idea as well, and I've seen the rewards. The second idea, I'll start with a quote, which I love. The world accommodates you for fitting in, but only rewards you for standing out. And standing out is difficult. I know standing out and standing in your vulnerability is difficult, of course. But if we go back to the definition that standing out and building your brand is an authentic journey. It's not faking it. It's not an equivalent to the imposter syndrome. It's something authentic and vulnerable that eases the pain, and that makes it much more easier to do. So the second idea is emphasize your distinction and advantage. So be bold enough, be brave enough to authentically talk about your advantage and distinction. I'll give you an example. Again, I give you examples from myself and from a lot of successful brands so that you know these ideas work and people are using these ideas to build their brands. Most of us are familiar with WordPress. 37% of the web, of the entire internet, is built on WordPress. It's a platform for building websites. A lot of you are familiar with that. When you go on the WordPress homepage on their website, you see this statistics smack dab right on the homepage. Why? Because if they don't differentiate, if they don't emphasize their distinction and advantage, how would people know? And again, this is a dilemma for a lot of people. A lot of people want to stay humble. They don't want to bang on their chests, and they don't want to shamelessly promote themselves. I get that. I understand that. But it's not shameless. It's not egocentric. If you think about it, you're promoting yourself authentically, not by making false claims, in order to be able to help more people, in order for your audience to be able to find you, in order to be able to make an impact. And again, this is a war in our minds all the time. I want to be humble. I don't want to promote myself. I don't want to stand out. I want to stand out. This is a decision for you to make. I'm not saying this is the right way. This is the only way. This is the way the business world works. I've used it, and I invite you to consider it as well. Again, I use it. I use my accolades to build credibility for myself. When I say that I was one of the top 25 Canadian immigrants, it builds credibility. When I say that I broke a Guinness World Record, it creates credibility. And branding is all about people's perception professionally. Again, it's authentic. You're not making false claims. But if you've done that, share it with the world so that your audience can find you. Otherwise, in my humble opinion, you're doing them disservice because they can't find you then. You're able to help a lot of people, but if you're not promoting yourself, if you're not talking about how you can help them, then they won't be able to help you. And they will remain stuck in their problems. Okay, we have only a few minutes, so let me increase the speed here. So action idea, define your differentiation, whatever that is. Is it your background? Is it your years of experience? Is it your credentials? Is it your accolades? Is it the awards that you've got throughout the years? What is it? Maybe it's a mix of all of that. Emphasize it. Number 3, again, I'll give you stats, research. My talk is evidence-based. It's not something I cooked up for myself. It's all based in the reality of the business world, at least from my perspective. So statistics, 82% of marketers are actively investing in content marketing. 67% of marketers report that content marketing generates demand or leads. And 63% say that it helps build loyalty with existing clients and customers. So number 3, create content consistently. Question for you folks. How many of you are active on social media? How many of you post content on social media, whether it being Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or other social media platforms? Put it in the chat, please. Veena, Anuj, Mona, Lamont. Thank you so much for playing along with me. So look at these statistics. Don't take my word. Look at these statistics. And you see that it works. It's a long-term strategy, but it's really, really effective in building your brand and getting clients along the way. That is why Bill Gates, for God's sake, does it. That is why Elon Musk does it. The most successful people in the business world. That's why most of them, I won't say all of them, some people like to work in silence, in the dark. But when you look at the whole spectrum, maybe 90%, I'm not sure about the number, but most people in the business world know the value of content creation in terms of building the brand and getting clients. You see on LinkedIn, a lot of people do it. I do it. But the point is consistency. Consistency is everything. So it's not just about putting one video on Instagram and disappear for 6 months. It's not about trying for a week and then giving up. It's not about, Shahab, I posted on LinkedIn 6 times, it didn't work. This doesn't work in my space. It's a long-term strategy. Consistency is everything. Sandeep says, intentionally and consciously do once a week. Yeah, at least once a week, right? Post on social consistently. Number 4, let's start with the stats. According to a survey conducted by the Harvard Business Review, businesses reported a 20% increase in sales and revenue when their CEOs and key executives engaged in public speaking and thought leadership activities. Public speaking. Public speaking. Speaking online, just like what I'm doing right now. It builds credibility because when you speak publicly to a group of people, whether it's on a webinar or on a physical stage or on Instagram Live or on LinkedIn Live, it doesn't matter. When you're speaking publicly, it instantly gives you credibility. Yes or no? Put it in the chat. Public speaking, if done right, of course, you don't want to share garbage, but if done right, if you're providing value, if you're providing helpful content to people, it instantly increases your credibility. And the platforms are easier now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the only way I knew to do it was to go to a hotel, rent a room at a hotel, spend a lot of money for the room, for catering, spend a lot of money on advertising and get 10, 20, 50, 100 people into a room. Now it's much easier. You just go live on Instagram. You just click live on LinkedIn, on YouTube. It's much easier. And the overhead is nothing. It's just you and your decision. You need to get intentional around this, and it works. That's why the business leaders, the big ones in the world, like people like Dave Ramsey, do it all the time. They do it for free a lot of times. They don't even charge anything for it because it helps their brand. It helps create awareness. That's why I do it all the time. I'm doing it right now online. I do it in person. Sometimes I charge. Sometimes I do it for free. It doesn't matter. It builds credibility. That's why I have worked with a lot of these big names, and I'm happy I did that. Sometimes I paid money out of my pocket in order to be able to work with these big names, but it has helped build my brand. And it's been done authentically. I never made any false claims around it. I never lied about anything, but over time it has built my brand and it has got me to another level, which is different from a lot of people in my space. And I'm sharing it as a peer. I'm not saying I'm someone special. I'm saying I did this. It worked. I see a lot of other people doing this. It works. And as long as you're authentic and you're following your values and you're, being true to yourself, it's great. You have both worlds, the financial freedom and, being true to yourself, which is wonderful. So action idea, just jot it down. I have a lot of ideas for you and I want to provide maximum value for you. So offer to speak for free at an event or even hold your own event. Think about it. Maybe you're ready for my first idea or this idea or all of the ideas. Just put it in your calendar and start doing it on a regular basis. Okay, so I'm just going to mention the other ideas because we're almost out of time. And then we'll take a couple of questions. So the other idea, number 5, we only have 3 more, writing books. I've written multiple books. Part of what we do at my company is that we help people publish and market their books. It's wonderful. In a survey of entrepreneurial authors, 86% said their business grew after publishing the book. That's why a lot of these famous people in the teaching, training, coaching space, they write books all the time. Every 2, 3, 5 years, they write a new book. And you see it in the coaching space as well. All the thought leaders publish books every few years. It works. It helps build brands. I've done it for myself. You can find a lot of my books on Amazon. I help people publish books as part of what we do at my company. So again, an idea for you, become a published author. Number 6, getting featured in media. When you get featured in media and you get those logos, it helps build credibility. Do you know somebody in the media? Can you get featured in media? Can you get interviewed by media so that the feature and the logos can help build your credibility? You see people in our space, the empowerment space, people like Darren Hardy, when you go on their website, you see all these logos. Why? Because it gives them credibility. When you go on my website, you see all these logos, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Yahoo, Toronto.com. Why? It gives me credibility. So find a way to get featured in media. And lastly, number 7, associate yourself with successful brands because it helps increase your sales. A 20% increase in sales has been seen according to statistics that have been published by Forbes. Again, in our space, you see people like Robin Sharma and a lot of other thought leaders in our space, in the leadership, coaching, empowerment space. They always talk about the big names and big brands that they've worked with. Why? Why does Robin Sharma mention that he has worked with Nike or Microsoft? Because it gives him credibility. That's why Zoom, the platform we're using right now, on their homepage, they talk about the fact that they have worked with these big brands. They have worked with Walmart or Capital One or so on and so forth. That's why Shahab talks about the fact that he has worked with Deepak Chopra. Why? It gives me credibility. Working with big brands gives you credibility. Now, you have to get creative. You have to connect with successful people and brands. And when you connect with the first one is the most difficult. Then the next ones become easier. The first one for me was the most difficult. Now I connect with all these successful people and thought leaders in our space much easily because they see that I've worked with the Deepak Chopras of the world, Tony Robbins of the world, and so on and so forth. So it becomes much easier for me. Do you agree? Yes or yes? Put it in the chat. The first one is difficult, but when you pave the way to the first one, the next ones will become much easier. And here's a recap of everything, the 7 different ways. I'm happy that I managed to do it in 60 minutes, as I promised. So 7 different ways to build credibility. Take a photo of this slide and think about it, and at least pick 1 or 2 of them and put it in your calendar. And then I invite you to consider these ways to build credibility. I'm going to close by sharing a short poem by Walt Whitman. I celebrate myself and sing myself. And what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahab. So powerful and such brilliant ideas. It's got me reflective. Before we just carve some time out for Q&A, let me just invite everyone to bring on their camera so we could do a quick photograph of all the people present today. Okay, thank you so much. And I think we can stay on with the camera. And if you've already put in some questions, I've seen that. So Preeti, I might just bring you on to curate some of the questions we've picked up on the live chat today rather than from the registration form. So just bring up a couple of questions which might be very pertinent to what Shahab shared.
Right. First of all, thanks, Shahab, for this wonderful, deep, engaging session and, unpacking the perception part and how that influences us professionally for our business. That was a very, very powerful insight. And not to forget the 2 pillars that you spoke about. And the very, very, the action points, this is something that, it helps new coaches to build their credibility and, take practical steps. Otherwise, it's always just a concept. From there, there were just 2 questions in the chat box. One was when you were talking about, should we be talking about our niche, the value, the unique value that we promise to our clients? So one question came up is how to strike a balance between sharply defined niche and also not keeping it too narrow. So,
that's a very good question. As you know, the niche question has been around forever for coaches, and there are different schools of thought around niching down. My perspective, again, I'm sharing my perspective. I'm not saying this is the whole truth. The way I figured it out for myself and the way I teach it to my students and help my clients with is that there are 2 ways to go about niching. Number 1, do not niche. If you're not ready to niche, do not niche. But be okay with the fact that it will take a lot more time and effort to establish yourself in the market. So you can decide and choose not to niche, but be prepared to invest in a lot more time and energy into gaining credibility and getting established in the market. There is another hint here that I'd like to share as well. I've seen coaches who do not niche, they choose not to niche, but they are very financially well off. And they can spend a lot of money on advertising, promotion, on social media content, and they just explode into the scene as a generic coach, as a generic life coach or generic business coach. I've seen that as well. So if you're financially well off, so you can make up for your, generic presence in the market by spending a lot more money and expediting the process. So that's one choice. The other choice, which I believe is relevant to most coaches, like 90% of coaches, I invite them to consider the second choice, is to niche down. And for all of us, a lot of us are, especially new coaches, are paralyzed about coaching about niching, because they think, oh, I'm passionate about different topics, I'm passionate about different groups, I can help a lot of people. But if you think about it, you're not passionate about infinite choices. If you think about it, it's a short list of 3, 4, 5 different choices, 3, 4, 5 different segments. It's not that you're passionate about all the topics in the world. It's not that you're passionate about helping all the people of all ages in all different industries. Yes, you might be passionate about different things, but it's a short list of 3, 4, 5. And if that's the case, just give it a try. Just give it a try. And, go for niching, because when you go for niching and when you present yourself as a specialized person in a niche in the market, then it's much easier to compete. It takes a lot less time and effort to establish yourself. You will be competing against a lot fewer people, and you will have a lot bigger chance to get known by people who matter to you. So there are both choices. They're both valid. A lot of people become successful either way, but if you're choosing to not niche, be prepared to invest a lot more time and effort. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahab. There's another question, Shahab. Is there any exercise to get our uniqueness as a coach? Is there anything we can determine our uniqueness?
Of course, there are lots of exercises and lots of ways to think about it. An initial step is to think about the definition that I shared with you: unique, promise, a value. And one of the components is unique. And when we want to find our uniqueness, we can start with self-reflection. We can start by asking ourselves, what are my strengths? What are my passions? What are my values? What are my prominent personality traits? And there are lots of assessments out there that you can use to clarify the answers to these questions. The one that I use most of the time is VIA, or VIA, which is a positive psychology questionnaire developed by the University of Pennsylvania. A lot of you might be familiar with the area of positive psychology. The VIA questionnaire, the beauty of this questionnaire is that it is evidence-based. It's based on research from big universities in the world, and the basic version is free. So you don't have to pay for it. There are other questionnaires, of course, like MBTI, DISC, Enneagram, and so on and so forth. As you know, a lot of them are not evidence-based, but VIA, or VIA, is evidence-based, and the basic version is free. I use that because it helps my clients clarify what are their top strengths. And there are other questionnaires which a lot of you are familiar with, around self-reflection, finding your values, finding your passions. Again, it starts with self-reflection and getting to know yourself. They say, know yourself to grow yourself.
Wonderful. You said a while ago that you are doing disservice if you don't promote yourself. The next question is, how do you put yourself out there and still not feel like bragging?
That's a great question. And that's a very valid question, because a lot of us coaches, we are humble people. We just want to help people. We just want to empower people. We don't want to come off as bragging, salesy, pushy people. And exactly that's the point where the distinctions come in. So it's all about what you tell yourself when you're doing this. It's all about the meaning that you give to the experience. We coaches are familiar with these topics. It's not about what you do. It's about the meaning that you give to what you do. So if you think of promoting yourself as bragging, if you think of promoting yourself as shamelessly promoting yourself, if you think of posting content on social media or talking about yourself as pounding on your chest and telling the world that you're the best in the world, of course you won't do it, because nobody wants to be that person. But if you give it another meaning, look at it from another vantage point. I'm doing this because it's my calling. I'm doing this because I believe in it, in its value. I believe in its value to help people. I'm doing this because I'm putting myself out there so that people can find me, people who rely on me, people who don't know me yet, but will somehow find me, and I will support them through their transformation, and I will support them to get to their goals and solve their problems. If you give it this meaning, then it's not just about you. It's a mission. It's a calling. It's something that you do in order to make an impact in the world. That's where the distinction comes in.
Thank you for that. There is just an observation statement out here. What percentage of clients come via digital marketing? Most coaching assignments come through personal contact or references.
So what's the question again? Say it again.
What percentage of clients come via digital marketing?
Oh, okay.
Most coaching assignments come through personal contact or references.
That's true.
Before you pick the answer, Shahab, may I just come in? I am just going to launch a feedback poll. So please, as you hear Shahab answer that, please do respond to the feedback poll. It's about perhaps quick 2-3 minutes. Thank you.
So yes, for a lot of folks, business comes from referrals, from word of mouth, from current clients and past clients. I agree, 100%. For a lot of other coaches who have a different approach to marketing, they do a lot of social media, they do a lot of events, they do a lot of challenges on digital platforms, they do a lot of campaigns. A large percentage of their clients come from digital marketing. So it depends. The question is, what does your marketing mix look like? When you look at your marketing calendar, when you look at your calendar, whether it's in paper, old school like me, or it's on Google Calendar or whatever else app you use, what marketing strategies are you using? Because if you're not using digital marketing, obviously you won't get clients from digital marketing. If all you're doing is serving clients and you're not putting in the time and effort into building your brand on digital platforms, you won't get clients from that side. What I share with you here is I invite you to consider different strategies in your marketing mix, including referrals, of course, including word of mouth, of course, but also social media, putting on events, doing live events, doing challenges on social platforms, creating campaigns, collaborating with other coaches in the space, working with thought leaders and influencers, and all of those different strategies. And that way, you're decreasing your risk, because if you're dependent on just one channel, you're increasing your risk because it might go away and you might get stuck. But if you're using all these different channels, you're decreasing your risk. And at the same time, you're increasing the possibility of getting interested prospects and leads. I hope that helps. And my time is up, by the way. It was a pleasure, honor, joy for me to be here. I hope you got something of value from my presentation.
Absolutely. Do we have time for just one small last question, Shahab?
Of course, of course.
Yeah. A follow-up to what you just spoke about. There's a question over here. Does it make sense to have a social media manager in that case?
Of course. When you're starting out in the beginning, I don't know who asked this. I don't know where they are in their journey. When we're just starting out, we don't have the financial means to hire other people, and we have more time than clients. So we are not that busy. We have more time on our hands. So for most of us, it makes sense that we do it on our own. But as we move along and we get busier and busier and our business grows, at some point, if we want to, become more efficient, we need to hire people to do that for us, social media manager. And there's an exception here as well. Some people are at the beginning stages, but they're either afraid of social media, or they don't like social media, or they hate social media, or they think they're not good at social media skills. They don't want to put their face out there on the social media platforms, those types of reasons. If they can't manage those beliefs and they can't manage to get themselves to do it, even if they're at the beginning stages, it's always better to have someone take care of it for you than decide to ignore it altogether. So yes, let's get active on social media. If you're at the beginning stages, do it on your own, or at least get someone to do it. But eventually, if you're like a lot of you here, including me, if you've done it for a long time, then you can hire people to do it for you, and you can delegate to them, and you can focus on your core genius.
Thank you so much, Shahab. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahab.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and being here. I know you have to jump on to another meeting. Thank you for being here, and I really appreciate your sharing your lived-in experience of how to build the brand. Thank you so much, and thank you all the colleagues to be here. Please do take another moment. Shahab, we let you go. Thank you, and please do complete the poll before I can kind of click on the end poll, maybe another couple of minutes. Is anybody still working on it? Shall I just close the poll? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Gayatri, for the most sought after session. Loved it, every bit of it. Thanks a lot to entire team who's been behind you, and especially you, Gayatri. I couldn't stop by saying this, and I had to open my mic.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. All right, so I think we are perhaps going to close the session for today. Thank you for being here. I hope it was of value to you, and you're going to now go back to your work desk and start thinking on what are the steps you're going to take actions on to start building your brand and be out there in the world for people to know you. And I really like the statement Shahab made, that it's a disservice you will be doing to the people who don't know you yet. So be out there boldly to put your name and your service to be available to all the people out there.